rising, the light on the horizon. We are the truth already spoken, the real nobody's token. We are the seed in every flower, the source of all
Dr. Khadijah Ali-Coleman is a homeschooling mother and co-founder of Black Family Homeschool Educators and Scholars. Her research includes study of African American homeschool students who are dual enrolled in community college, creative placemaking as a tool for community building, and high impact learning practices. Hello and welcome to the Black Family Homeschool Educators and Scholars September Tea Talk. I'm so excited to be here. Tea Talks are brought to you monthly in our Black Family Homeschool Educators and Scholars resource group, here on Facebook. They're hosted by the founders, Dr. Cheryl Field-Smith or myself on alternating months. So last month, our first Tea Talk, our host was Dr. Cheryl. And it was wonderful. It was a panel on serving our neurodiverse homeschoolers, Black homeschoolers, and had an excellent conversation. And today, our talk is going to be around living your best and balancing your best homeschooling life as a Black mother. Y'all ready for that, ladies? So
yes.
So we have a tea talk. So are you drinking tea? That's my question to you.
Got my tea right here.
All right, let's see the tea. I told Queen Thais earlier she was all coordinated with her teacup. She had a yellow butterfly outfit. Fancy. So I'm drinking, okay, I had to get because usually I just drink peppermint tea, but I added this tea, throat coat, because I'm supposed to be singing later. Has anyone had this before?
Yes.
So it's lemon echinacea.
Has a little echinacea in it? Yes.
Yeah, so it's lemon echinacea, and I have another tea bag, peppermint tea. So what do you drink?
Right.
So Journey, hello, ma'am. What are you drinking?
Hi, how are you guys?
Greetings.
What are you drinking?
Okay, so I have a little mix. I have some goldenrod that I foraged like yesterday or the day before yesterday, some lemon and ginger.
Oh, nice.
That is
nice.
beautiful.
I like your hair, your new hair.
Thank you.
Dannielle, what are you drinking?
I have it with me now, but typically I like to drink ginger for all of its benefits, ginger and chamomile.
Yes, oh,
that's my daily thing.
And you said it in a very soothing and soft way. That's that before bed drink. That's really nice. But ginger's kind of exciting. Ginger kind of perks you up, but chamomile is very calming.
That's morning.
Yeah, yep, you're right. All right, Cheryl, what are you drinking?
Well, right now I have just water because I grabbed some but this morning I had peppermint tea mixed with a little chamomile.
Okay.
So nice.
Yeah.
All right, Queen, what's in that butterfly cup?
I got the turmeric or the turmeric. I don't know how y'all like to say it. Sometimes I say turmeric. They're like, oh, turmeric. But it's moringa. It's mixed with moringa. So I love moringa.
Wow.
Yes. And it's just.
So I like, I've had moringa lotions and how it smells. It smells really good.
The leaves are nice and sweet. If you ever get an opportunity to taste the plant itself, the leaves are just so pleasant to chew on. They just have a really nice, sweet taste. So
look at us learning stuff. And then look at Dr. AJ looking all fancy. Well, first of all, you got plants all around you. Are you in a bathtub?
Oh,
so she's not gonna only talk about self-care, she's demonstrating it for us. Are you drinking tea, Paris?
All
I
right.
love it. I love it. What are you drinking? You're muted.
I am on chamomile today.
Okay. All right, Sam.
Yeah, I was gonna make some mullein tea, but that would have needed to steep just a little bit longer than the time I had. So.
Okay. Steeping. Y'all fancy. Y'all real fancy. I got a tea bag. I heated some water in the microwave. So I see that so we have folks that have tuned in. Hey, Dr. Cheryl, she's checking in. Enso, Christine, Crystal, Denise, yay! That's another person like you, Journey, who she has a garden. She's one of my Facebook friends. She gardens, and I think that's it that I see right now. I think. Oh, Erica, Yolanda. So hello, those of you watching in Facebook land. We're so happy that you're here. So let me get started because I was telling them before we start, I will talk you to death. I'm sorry. So let me focus. So let's meet our ladies. So first up, let me introduce to you our panelists, Journey Bimwala. And Journey, put your tea up so people can see you, is a family health and lifestyle development specialist who specializes in guiding, coaching, and educating families on ways to build a healthy, nutritional foundation and engage in the art of healing. She provides homeschooling families the tools to build wellness through comprehensive wellness services and educational plans that cater to the diverse needs of the community. You can connect with Journey on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and she's also a member of our group. So you can connect with her there too, right, Journey?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Next up, I'm going to tell you about Dannielle Joy Davis. Dr. Davis is a homeschooling mother and was homeschooled as a child. She's a tenured associate professor of higher education at St. Louis University, and she is the first known African-American woman descended from captive Mende, Temne, and Fula people in the United States to earn tenure in the history of the institution's School of Education. A graduate of the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, did I pronounce that right? Okay. She has studied and conducted research in Ghana, South Africa, Senegal, Egypt, Germany, the Netherlands, Sweden, and Belgium. Her interdisciplinary research examines the experiences of marginalized groups in educational settings, the role of organizational policy and practice in the promotion of inhibition of egalitarian academic and occupational outcomes, and spirituality in the workplace and other learning environments. Awesome. You all are putting me to work with reading these bios. Y'all are some impressive people. All right, so next up we have Queen Thais. Queen Thais is a Black homeschool and education visionary who has been noted for her works of being an award-winning educator and successful homeschool mother for 20 plus years. She has taught and learned from thousands of children, as well as designed African-centered curriculums, critical educational tools, resources, children's events, and conferences globally. She is founder of the Liberated Minds Black Homeschool and Educational Institute, which is an educational empire forging a new reality for the holistic cultivation of children throughout the African diaspora. Its trifold mission consists of the cultural development of Black children as scholars, leaders, passionpreneurs, and innovators that serve the Black community, empowerment of the Black family, and the creation and maintenance of the intergenerational wealth that is needed to shape a future full of prosperity, power, and legacy. You can learn more about her at queenthais.com. Woo!
Ooh, wow.
I'm telling you, y'all got me reading. Lord have mercy. All right, next up, we have Cheryl R. Carter. Cheryl Carter is a busy homeschooling mother, author, speaker, and a college professor with a passion to help others write well. She teaches English and creative writing classes and has written broadly on a variety of subjects. She is the author of several books, including Organize Your Life, Chasing God and the Kids Too, Essential Writing Skills for the College-Bound Student, Inspire the Writer in Your Child, and Organize Your ADHD Child. In addition to writing fiction and poetry in her spare time, she blogs regularly on issues of clarity in written communication and the family. She has a BA in English literature and an MFA in creative writing and has done graduate study in special education. She has a certificate in college admission from Columbia University, and she has also written literary guides and won academic awards for her writing. Her books have been translated into Hebrew, German, Czech, and Polish, are selling well internationally. Her curriculum and writing classes focus on equipping students with the vital skills for lifetime communication success. Her curriculum and classes are marked by a sense of depth, yet simplicity that nurture a love of writing and critical thinking in students. I love y'all. Look at us. Woo! And then last but certainly not least, and had to go last because I had to exercise my tongue to say all these words that are in her bio. We have my friend, Dr. Paris A.J. Atkins-Jackson. Now, I met Paris in 2016 at Morgan State University. She had just been selected as part of a program in the White House. She's award-winning, but she was the vice president of our a graduate student association. The only reason why I joined it was because of this fantastic woman. She created a conference at Morgan called The Grind, where folks thought that I created it because I was so pressed with making sure that it continued after she left, because it was such a phenomenal event. And she is just still being a superwoman in the world that she has entered after leaving graduate school. She got like 10 degrees, but let's hear about this. She's a multidisciplinary community partnered researcher whose work resides at the intersection of mixed methodology and social determinants of health, such as racism. As a statistician and psychometrician, her research involves the utilization of mixed data to develop and validate culturally responsive assessments of individual behaviors and quality measures of institutional behaviors. So basically, she's out in these streets fighting for us, showing the impact of racism and things that we have no control over that are impacting the way that we thrive as Black people. And her focus is on Black women. And as a student, she created research around Black women's self-care that everyone and their mama wants to bring her in, because they realize that, and she has put in she has determined from her research that folks are killing us, and that all the self-care in the world that we can do, that racism impacts our health. And so I'm sorry, I just went off book with your bio, but I think you're phenomenal. And I really couldn't pronounce all them other words, Paris. I really couldn't. You have words in here, but I need people to know that right now, you are a Michael J. Fox Foundation Research Fellow at the Care Research Center at Massachusetts General Hospital, working through the Harvard Medical School studying racism in clinical trials. That's phenomenal. And so you will probably have an opportunity to share a little bit more about the event that's going on today, actually, right after this event, aligned with this work that you're doing. But ladies, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad to have you here. You were especially selected for this panel because of these fantastic lives that you're living, knowing that in addition to this work, with the exception of Paris on the way, and she's the baby in our group, right? But with the exception of Paris, all of you are living these full lives while homeschooling. And so we have a very high attendance of folks who RSVP to attend this Tea Talk, because we want to know, first of all, when we talk about balance and we talk about building these fantastic lives, I think it needs to be clear that that's really relative, right? It's relative to who you are as to what your best life is. So my first question that I'm going to pose, and I'm going to ask first for Dannielle and Cheryl to kick it off with responding to this first question, as to when you think, and it's kind of backwards, because I think you would think that we would get to this, but I would love to know right now, what are those ways that you are creating joy and balance in your lives, and how does homeschooling work with the creation of that joy and that building of your best life. And if you can, how can you condense that in 2 minutes? But if you can try your best, I'd appreciate it, so we can have more people respond. Dannielle, you won't you kick it off for us?
I will. Hello, everyone. I think in terms of creating joy and balance, particularly during this time of COVID, one thing that I'm learning is to be gentle with myself during this time in terms of parenting, in terms of being an educator, both for my son and for others, right? In terms of, my work with the university. So I think, one thing that we've been doing to create more joy and balance is making sure that we focus on a specific goal each day. And in essence, whatever that goal is, working toward that goal and celebrating each other in terms of fulfilling that goal, whatever that goal is, whether it's for my son writing 1 page on astrophysics, or whether it's for me in terms of my work as—
Wait. Astrophysics?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Isn't your child 11?
He is 12. He just turned 12. He's in 7th grade, and he just loves everything physics. And he is committed to being the next Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So, yeah. So being kind to ourselves, and basically, in terms of outcomes for each day, if we meet something related to a goal, to celebrate ourselves, in different ways at the end of the day. For me, it may be as simple as, drinking some chamomile tea, right?
Right.
For him, it may be me buying him a special treat, but, we're very committed to celebrating ourselves, and that helps bring us joy. And we're also committed to staying physically active through exercise. That's very important in our household too, especially during this sedentary time.
So I'm going to come back to a follow-up after Cheryl answers, because my question to you, I was actually teasing you, but it's something that Queen Thais always says, stages, not ages. So I was teasing you when I was saying, isn't your child only 11? Because I know that you get that a lot. And for those who are watching who are new homeschoolers, you will get that a lot when you share with folks the things that your children are doing that may not seem aligned with what they're familiar with in public schools or traditional schools. And you'll find that your children will be doing more and more things that are not really aligned with what we're used to when we were in traditional schools. But I'll zip it, because I want to hear, Cheryl, from your bio, you've been homeschooling now for over 20 years. So I want to know.
That's because actually almost 30, because my oldest is actually 30 years old now.
Oh, okay. Well, you gotta take that wisdom for us.
Well, I mean, to be candid with you, it's interesting that you asked me this first question, and I'm going to kind of make it concise, because actually I've been struggling with actually feeling joy these last few days. So while I have I have structure set up, actually, honestly, I kind of pulled aside. Sometimes structure is there, but sometimes the ability to pull away and say, I can't even give you an answer right now.
Yeah.
I don't know when this is going to air, so I won't get into everything, but just watching, how do you tell your kids your life matters?
Yep.
You live that I want you to work hard, and you could be anything, you could do anything. And mom doesn't feel that right now.
Right.
Let me be real candid. Mom's struggling.
Right.
And so I think what I've done is to give myself the freedom that I don't have to teach every day.
Yeah.
And to say that, you know what, I'm a little bit better today. So, I came on, I got myself, went and put on my makeup, and, make sure my braids wasn't hanging out too crazy. But I think for me, how I find joy is to be honest with myself, to say, honestly, last few days has been hard for me.
Yeah.
It's been really hard. You know, we started homeschooling and and I don't want to get off base, but we tell our kids you could do anything and you could be anything. And, you know, at one point in the narrative was one thing we said to our sons, but it's our daughters too, my God. It's our daughters too. You can't say anything. So for me, the way I find joy is to say, it's okay that I'm not okay.
Yeah. And can we put link? I want it to be clear, because this is going to be recorded and other folks are going to watch it who's not watching it live. Let's be clear. What you're speaking of is the violence that's happening in the streets, police violence, but just in specifically things like Breonna Taylor.
Brianna, yeah, I wasn't sure if I could just say Brianna, like when
Yes,
that.
you can.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I mean,
Yeah.
in all honesty, that thing went through me. It really. I don't want to get off, but it really went through me, and I you know, we could, you know, so I have, even though I have the older ones, I'm not sure if everybody knows this, but I have a 30-year-old, 27-year-old, and a 23-year-old. Then there's a gap, and we got 10-year-old twins. Yeah, and they're all ours, same husband, same family. Because that's the next question people ask me. Um, so no, so you know, um, yeah. So sometimes it's just like yesterday was not for some people might say it wasn't a productive day.
Yeah. Well,
I have to say it was okay because mom wasn't in the um, position. And my little guys are, you know, we're still working on them being self-motivated. You know, you would think I did this all these years. I got it figured out. But right now I had to mute myself a moment ago to say, go upstairs because you're making too much noise. You're going to hear you in the video. So
But I want to say in response to what you just shared is that is probably one of the that's the healthiest thing that we could hear right now, is that in the midst, and particularly with all of these people who are choosing to homeschool or homeschooling because they don't have a choice because of COVID, that on top of that, on top of a global pandemic, as Black people, we are having to contend with reminders, daily reminders, that in our country that we live, that we are not extended the same rights and legal protections that other citizens in this country receive. And that in itself, in Paris, I guess I would ask for you, from your research, have you found that, and especially because you're doing that work now with racism, have you found that this reality is doing something specific to us as Black people?
Yes, absolutely. And Khadijah is a friend, so she calls me Paris, but please call me AJ. I actually never liked that name, Paris. I have never liked it. Not one day in my
Well, I'm
life.
not gonna call you that if you don't like it, AJ.
Girl. But no, absolutely, absolutely. So what it comes down to is that for Black women, they're engaging this system of racism in the outer world, but it's compounded for us because we try to seek refuge at home, but the damage of racism in our communities doesn't allow us to quite heal. We come home to the sexism, to the misogyny, to all the poison that our people are suffering from due to racism. And so we're trying to hold ourselves up and hold the community up. And that's where we get to things like self-care and what a lot of you are mentioning, which I think is on the precipice of that revolutionary idea that if you just take care of you, you are taking care of the community. Your ability to walk away from your twin sons is teaching them more about surviving in this kind of world than you could teach them with a book. Having those goals that Dr. Davis shared earlier, it's like those little moments where you're human in front of them as opposed to invulnerable, the ways that the Black women taught us before how to be actual women, which is to suck it up and get it done. Having those moments where we're like, no, baby, I don't have it. Mommy don't have it, is actually more revolutionary than we think, because our kids then learn how to take beats, how to take breaths, how to sustain themselves, how to go for the long distance in this fight, because it's a long distance fight.
I think that's a great segue to then have Queen Thais jump in here because as we heard from her bio, a lot of the work that Queen Thais has done is global now. And so it's important to mention that it's global and it's from a Pan-African perspective. So I guess keeping in mind what AJ has shared with us and this is a knowing that we know this, but in the perspective of homeschooling, what have you found has been part of your healing work or that has helped you create the balance because you are doing so much, not only for your 7 children, right? Am I wrong with that number?
You're correct.
7 children, okay? And you have a brand, but multiple arms of this brand. So what is that? How does that happen within this context that Cheryl has now brought to fore? And I appreciate that. And with AJ giving us context of knowing that we are in a toxic environment right now as a people.
Yes, absolutely. This has just been really powerful and eye-opening because honesty is so important with where we are, and for myself with so many different things on the plate, because we also have our own evolution. A lot of times we leave that out as we're talking about educating our children, and we have to be honest with our own development, our own things, that we walk with every day, things we want to improve on. And so for me, what helps me is being outside. They say that a bird that is born in a cage thinks flying free is an illness. And it just, the ability to get out of the 4 walls. And we do that often. I've incorporated that more in the homeschooling process because sometimes just walking and looking at the sky, just touching on the leaves, just the openness of the possibilities of change, of growth, and then also the ability to release the things that are ailing us, the things that are heavy on our minds. We have to have a form of releasing it where it's not stuck within the 4 walls. If we're releasing within our home, then all that energy is stuck and trapped in the space. When we're outside, we have the opportunity to we know that nature is very healing, right? That is just a natural component, whether it's going to the river or going to the ocean, or if you don't have any water nearby you, just, finding a park. And sometimes I'll just say, hey, I'm just going walking. And say, Mom, they'll call me. You said you were just going to the corner store. I was, but I needed a moment. And somehow I ended up at the park walking. And we underestimate just the simplicity of just walking and thinking in nature. A lot of our divine spiritual messages come in those elements and environments. And I want my children to know that too. I make sure that, they are in tune with, the reading of the environment, not just the reading of books, but, using that for your healing and for your balance. So we just incorporate it, in the everyday, and I encourage others to do the same.
I think this is a perfect entry point for Journey. Journey, we were talking about you so much before this live even began, and we were all on, we were talking about you before you came into the room, Journey, about all of these things that you're doing around foraging and just teaching folks about holistic health. But I continue to promote and to tell folks to check out your teaching talk because you on top of racism, and whenever I say racism, I just feel like I am totally diminishing what the experience is for Black people, because it's so much more than just racism. It's so much, to have to debate and discuss your humanity there's no definition for that. But on top of that, Journey, you came to this country from another place. You traveled to, you came here, you became part of our system, and that never is a good thing when you hear that. It's part of the system, only to then encounter health problems and health challenges that you had to really overcome as a single mother. And so when I ask you about balance and building your best life, take into context all of that, what does that mean for you? And what advice would you impart, or not even advice, but what part of your story do you share with us to let us know that that's something that you're in the process of or have accomplished? Is that a lot?
No, that's not a lot. That's perfect. Yes. So when it comes to balance, what I've learned is as parents, right, we are the foundation. Everything starts grow with us, right? And the way I maintain balance is that I need to maintain, nurture, and nourish my individual self first, taking time for self-discovery, self-development, really pouring attention and time into myself, because we naturally go into the kids, the children, and the children, and we get lost within the mother role, the homeschooling mom role now, and then little by little, your individual self, things that you enjoy, things that you crave, things that you dreamed of, kind of get swept away. So I've gotten to a point where I make time for me in that aspect, because with homeschooling, the beauty about it is that we gain skill in research, we gain skill on finding out different types of resources that goes well with certain skill sets, certain way of being, but we don't apply it to ourselves. We know that our children are in a certain way, need certain things, and we find everything. But I do the same thing, and I take that on for myself as well, because if I'm not okay, if I'm not well, then they are not going to be well. I'm not going to be able to be there for them. When I had thyroid cancer, I went through that. I was homeschooling throughout my cancer, but I had plenty of time. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't be there for them the way that I wanted to. And I've changed over the years. Everything's changed, and they're watching me. I'm saying one thing, but what they're saying is another, you know what I mean? And as my daughter will put it, I was literally fading right in front of her eyes. That's what she was seeing. And I didn't understand that. But once I understood that, I made it a thing, like, no, like, I have to take care of myself. I have to put things aside for me. So I've delved into self-discovery. What are some of the things that I enjoyed when I was a child? What are the things that makes me smile? What are the things within myself that I want to change, that I dreamed of? And I'll just sign up for different little
So
things.
tell us, what's an example of that? What are those things?
Nature. Like as a kid, I was into herbs. I was into nature, but then I grew out of it. And then my son, he loves nature. So as I was homeschooling him, we would go to nature classes. And then each time I just felt like I was always so comfortable, and I felt like a release. I was finding joy in it. And then one day I just looked at it, was like, I can do this, you know, and just that opening allowed me to dig deeper. And the more I dug, the more I was finding myself, the more I found the herbs that I used to love when I was growing up. I reconnected with my past selves. You know what I mean? And then I kept it, and I kept going with it and digging with it, which allowed me to have my own business, being able to teach and do things that I absolutely love. Like, my schedule is crazy, but I'm always out in nature, and that brings me joy. That makes me feel great. The kids see it, and for them is a testament, but it's also of them seeing how it gets done. You know what I mean? They know that someone else mentioned, like, if I don't have the time for you right now because I need to do something for myself. I don't see us being selfish. You know what I mean? Like, I have to, because so that I can be in a better space and a better place for you. But I also have to make time for myself. You get X amount of hours to you, and I get X amount of hours to myself. And then collectively, we also have our time together. But that is so crucial. And a lot of homeschool moms that I speak with lose sight of that.
Or don't even, it's not even a consideration. But socially, it's not. Socially, the word mother, the idea of mothering is an automatic expectation of martyrdom. So you become a mother, giving up all of that. Things, you know, and so that's when we even talk about balance, is how it's about, you're really having a conversation on how can you exist while
Yes.
still providing and being someone for your children. That's what balance means really for us, is how can I still
Yeah.
be a person and still
But
provide?
you have to exist in your truth. You know what I
Right.
mean? You have to exist in your truth and really embody those hobbies that you used to love, that you used to get into, those things. Like, and if you don't know what they are, then go into self-discovery. Go into your self journey of learning and getting to know yourself on that level. Like, what brings me joy? What makes me laugh? You found something that makes you laugh, do more of that. You
Yeah.
found something that you can't wait to do more of that.
But the thing is that you can do it and it doesn't have to be a vocation. That's the thing, is that a lot of times, and especially now, we believe that if we're good at something, we need to monetize it. And that in itself causes a stress or a burden instead of just doing things. So what I'm getting ready to ask you all another question, but can we go to our comment section to see how folks are replying to you all so far? So Radiance Major says, this is why homeschooling is so crucial. We must create our own narrative for our household. Rhonda was in agreement with Paris. She said, we need to teach our children, particularly our daughters, not to feel that they have to carry the world and the community. She also says, The Body Keeps the Score is a great book about epigenetics and how we carry and pass down trauma. Are you all familiar with that book? Yes. Paris is like, yes. That sounds like something to put on the book list. Yolanda Belton says, it's hard to encourage my children to apply to college and enter the military, which they're planning with everything that is going on. And I think she wrote that in response to what we're talking about regarding these environmental stressors, such as, you know, things such as, whether it's police brutality, whether it's just the things that Trump's presidency has really brought to fore. Not because those things weren't gone, but it's just now a comfortability that exists that many of us were unfamiliar with. You know, it was something the previous generation experienced, not us. Whenever people say that, I'm like, where did you live? But definitely our children, for our children, because I think that we've been very successful, like what Cheryl said earlier, giving them the impression that anything's possible, and them not really having the burden of what we experienced or our forefathers, our parents experienced. But now it's all of that has been unboxed, right? And so I don't see any questions, but Christine Diaz says, what Journey says resonates with me. Reconnect with my past self. So my next question to you all, and I guess because didn't this go by so fast? This is like so inadequate. But it's such a good start, because I think the conversation needs to be had. Where we're starting to have these conversations that, and when I go into the homeschool groups and see someone say, hey, where can I get what curriculum are you using? Or such and such. The first thing that goes in my head is like, that mama needs to chill out a little bit, because this idea that we have to educate our children is sort of like mass hysteria right now, instead of all of these things that you all have said.
That's right.
Starting
which
with
is more important.
So my question to you all is, you know, knowing that it can be very overwhelming and you can almost be hysterical entering this journey of homeschooling, if you can narrow it to one thing, that word of advice, and this is as we close out, your word of advice to parents, what should that focus be to begin creating balance in their lives so that they can be of use and value to themselves and their children? And I'm gonna start this time with Queen Thais, and then kind of go, it's all jacked up. But Queen Thais, if we can start with you.
Yes, I think my one piece of advice would be to become the water, to just flow. You know, life is just naturally, if we look at the ocean, right? Ebb and flow. There's movement, and there's no repeats of anything. So I know in the beginning, a lot of times I would try to, we just have a great day homeschooling. I try to repeat it the next day. And then I would be disappointed that it didn't happen the way it, the way it did the day before. So I think, when we think about water, it really takes the shape of the receptacle that it's in, which to me represents our circumstances. And we have to be able to be malleable, to be flexible, to be fluid in how we do things. And also that allows for more growth and more evolution and more true connection with our children, which is really, I think, which is most important. Sometimes we get lost in the textbooks and the worksheets and, the rigidness. But that would be my advice, to flow and listen to your inner intuition as well.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. And your yellow. That energy. Ooh, I love that. I love yellow and reds. Is she giving it? Paris, can you what from your research, from your expertise, what's some advice that you would give to a homeschooling mother who is struggling with balance during these days of COVID and just the unleashed violence that exists in this world?
Give a reminder that this system was not meant for you. And so the hard work that you're doing to mold yourself to it is not exactly necessary. There's a way that we can engage some of the violent systems that better protects us and our families. So what I specifically mean is I understand the need to stick to certain curriculums, but remember, this is going to be a human being out in the world. And so that algebraic equation needs to be applicable when they're trying to determine whether or not, if they put together all these factors, some other outcome is going to occur. So it has to be real life. Find a way to teach revolution in the work that you're doing every day. Find a way to teach self-care. Find a way to teach them to build a better system so that we can strategically tear down the racism that is killing us. Use your curriculum at home to do that work. You really can. Like, you are, as I just said, you are the flow, you are the water, you have it already. You don't need a textbook to tell you how to do it. You have your gut, listen to it, and follow that curriculum.
All right. Dannielle Joy?
Yes. I'm happy to.
Your whole name, my bad.
It is okay. Ditto to all the brilliant women on this call. Everything that has been said, ditto. And in addition to that, a piece of advice I would like to add is, during this time, consider where you are as a parent in terms of mentally, emotionally. Just consider your own context, right? And coupled with that, consider the age, stage, and needs of your child. And once you think about those, mesh those together and create a purpose, whatever that purpose is, whether it's learning more practical skills, or maybe it's working on your child's leadership skills, whatever that purpose is, establish that purpose in your home, and then have that purpose guide each day, right? And maybe your 4 hours or 5 hours of homeschooling is not exactly what you planned for it to be, but if they worked on their leadership skills, if they worked on their practical life skills that day, consider that a win and find joy in that. So that is a piece of advice I would consider and share with people during this difficult time.
Thank you for that. When you spoke, you immediately made me think of the Nguzo Saba.
Yes.
Kwanzaa, purpose, and everything that everyone's saying really is about that, that self-determination, that collective work, so and for those who are watching who you have no clue what I'm talking about, when you hear people talking about Kwanzaa, 7 days, the Nguzo Saba is the Swahili term for the 7 principles that in each day represents a principle that you are to aspire to. So when it takes place in December, going into the new year, you're really processing what you've done the year before. But that is actually a framework that could be used 360 days of the year. You could, and how Joy even described it, is using it as a template, so that even when you're fleshing out your curriculum, that it could be, what are we doing today to demonstrate self-determination? What are we doing today to demonstrate unity? What are we doing today? The purpose can actually be, I'm always telling folks to do a mission statement, but creativity is in there, faith is in there. So I definitely recommend that. My work in education, I've created programs around the Nguzo Saba. So Kwanzaa is in, I totally dig it. And I like how you frame that's important, because you are, it piggybacks off of what Paris, AJ said, that you are the person that determines what that looks like. And that in itself takes away a lot of these stressors of having to aspire to someone else's idea of what education should look like. Journey, can you give us something? What you would say?
Yes.
Would be that one piece of advice?
Yes, my one piece of advice.
Did she freeze?
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So before anything, my thing is build a relationship with your child, because prior to homeschooling, you had a different rapport, and now you're going into building an education specific to them. So get to know them, get to their level, play, enjoy, build communication, right? Just having one-on-one talk about any and everything. As you know, when we first fall in love kind of thing, we want to know everything about the guy. What's your favorite color? What you like? All this thing. Get into that with your children. Play the games that they are into, so you can feel and see what they like, what lights them up, and you want them to start to open themselves to you. So just having fun, and you'll be building trust that way, because after you do that, when you want to start putting together a curriculum or anything like that, you will know what they're into, what will be good for them, and they will talk with you. So build a relationship and just immerse yourself into them and have fun with your kids.
I love the passion that you say that with, because that truly lets us know that these are words you live by. I love that. And last but certainly not least, I come to you, Mama Cheryl.
It's interesting. I'm listening to everybody else is like, oh, such wisdom. The only thing I would say, because really, like, I'm listening like, wow, like Dr. AJ, and the only thing I would say is that I could add is that the one thing is, when I look back on, and I'm still homeschooling now, but my older kids were homeschooled all the way through. The one thing I didn't try to follow a curriculum. I was like Journey said, I did pursue relationship. Dr. AJ, I hope I made them revolutionaries. I think as I look at their lives now and their decisions, that they are revolutionaries. I love that. I love that, though. That's changing my mission statement, my family mission statement. But the one thing I would say is that don't try to teach them everything, that they're going to have like all new homeschoolers come to me and they say, oh, Cheryl, what did you use when they hear about my kids' achievements? Because the older ones, I won't get into, they have been very successful academically. But anyway, but God has a way of humbling me, because my 10-year-olds are still like, do we have to tie shoes? What I would just say is that don't try to do everything. You're not going to be able to do everything. The one thing I did was at some point I said, I'm never going to be able to teach you everything, because there's going to be gaps. Because I'm going to teach it differently than the school system is teaching it anyway. But I taught them how to, the main thing you could teach your kids is to love learning, because if they love learning, they will always be able to teach themselves. Even if they go to, and so I've had my kids say, I got a lousy professor, and they were the ones who passed the class, or they were coaching the other students to pass the class because they knew how to teach themselves. And some of the very things that I felt bad about myself as a parent, I reflect back sometimes, oh man, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. But actually it made them stronger. So when I used to feel bad that I was putting time in just because financially where we were as a family, I was putting time in, or I was helping, or just helping other people. Sometimes I was just like, oh, I got to help the kids, but somebody else is calling me. Those things, when I felt like I felt like I had failed them, actually that made them stronger because they became more independent learners. So I would say what I've learned, I've gotten comfortable with, and probably my little guys, they may not appreciate it as much as my older ones say, Mom, you let them get away with everything, because I just know now it's just not a big deal. So yeah, I taught them to read, but when they struggle with reading, I knew they were going to be with me. They were going to be home. So I had to teach them to love reading before I could look at any new curriculum, before I could say, let me test them and see, be careful, because I mean, all of you are doctors here. I mean, and our kids we do need to know if there's a sincere problem with learning, but sometimes we just got to make sure that they love learning. Sometimes they've been so affected in school and in life. Even people look at this, I won't get to the whole thing, but sometimes if you're just around somebody who doesn't like you, you feel the vibes. You feel the vibes, even as a Black young man, just going, you feel it, and they feel it. And sometimes they're struggling and they don't know how to articulate it yet. And so we need to be patient with them. And that's why I said, I think if I would say anything to parents, I would say the curriculum is secondary. Teach them to love learning, because you will always learn. All of us here, I was sitting here almost being intimidated when everybody's bio was being read. And I said, wow, there's such an accomplished women.
You right there with us. You what?
Well,
Yes,
In a minute.
yes.
I get, well, we all struggle with the imposter syndrome, right? So guys, but my point being is that I think our kids struggle with that too. And sometimes they don't necessarily say that. And so I really like everything. That was said. So I don't really have anything more to offer other than say, when you're choosing curriculum, just choose something. Make sure that your kids love learning. Just work on them loving learning, because if they love learning, they will always learn things. And even if somebody says they have special needs, they will still learn. You would be surprised. I mean, not just my own kids. I've helped kids who are quote unquote special needs achieve phenomenal things that the school system told them no.
Yeah.
Or even society told them no. Even honestly, even a neurologist said no. How could they do this? But they did it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say, teach your kids to love learning, because we could teach them to love learning. And it's as simple as getting excited when they make one little achievement.
Yes.
Somebody might be saying, well, how do, and sometimes we got to come off of that harsh, the negative stereotype of the Black mom is, you better get yourself together, because before I come in and spank you, boy, or whatever. Sometimes we got to be a little bit more loving.
And gentle. And I think
gentle,
that a lot of times that gentleness is something that we don't talk about within our community. And I think that Journey really was talking about that in what she was imparting, is that it's really important for us to be passionate and teach things and to learn who our children are. And when we're learning who they are, we also learn about ourselves. Having the capacity to homeschool is very important. And I think it really, we don't really have those conversations that everyone doesn't have the same level of capacity in being present and being patient and being gentle and being graceful with not only their children, but with themselves. And all of those things show up in your homeschooling practice, whether you want it to or not, because that proximity to your children now has changed, where you're not only the caregiver, but you also are their facilitator, their curator of their learning experience. And so in closing, first of all, I'd like to thank each and every one of you. I don't think that we even broke the ice in terms of the conversation that we can have. You all are so fun. I just, I love it.
Thank you.
Love it. So what I'm going to invite you all to, there's absolutely no date. I know Cheryl, if she's watching, she's like, what in the hell is Khadijah talking about? We did not talk about this. But I have already been telling people, you know what? I want us to have a mentor mixer. And I really want those of us who have been homeschooling for a while to be in an environment where folks can just talk with us and ask us questions. And Facebook has this thing called rooms now. And I want to experiment with the room and have folks be able to go off and have a conversation. If maybe they'll decide they want to go and have a group with people from Texas, or a group with people who have one child as opposed to, more than one child, or a group where you can't, if you got 5 or more kids, whatever. But something where those who they can come and we can find each other. So when I flesh that out better, I'm going to invite you ladies to come and be part of that. Does that sound something you'll be part of? Journey
Yes,
already.
Absolutely.
yes.
And thank you so much, Khadijah, for all of your work.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Part of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you.
But look, AJ, you got fans in the comment section, so would you be joining us too?
Sure.
Good.
She's our resident expert on Black women self-care. I don't think we didn't even get enough to so you definitely have to come back in future tea talks. But on that note, it's 5 o'clock, ladies. Thank you so much for investing an hour.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Got a chance to listen. Please put your questions and anything in the comment section, and we will try to respond to them still, even though it may not made it on our segment. And if you would like to be connected with any of these ladies and learn more about them, shoot us an email at hello@blackfamilyhomeschool.org. And I will more than happy facilitate a connection with our wonderful panelists today. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.
All right, thank you.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Have a good
Learned a lot myself here, just being here. I appreciate it.